Good evening, family. Welcome back to Nubian Narrator News, where we shine a floodlight on the chaos the mainstream would rather dim down with background piano music. Tonight's topic, illegal migrants. Reform UK's Zia Yusuf said, "If you come here illegally, you shouldn't get to roam about, you should be detained." Sounds bold, right? But here's the truth. Even talking about accommodating illegal arrivals is already a sign of political weakness. Hotels? No. Barges? No. Military bases? No. Britain is not responsible for giving comfort to people who broke its borders. They shouldn't be here in the first place. The only word that matters is deportation. Britain's addiction to accommodation. Let's take stock of where we are. Hotels booked out for years, barges converted into floating dorms, military bases dusted off like relics to serve as holding pens. Billions wasted, locals furious, communities fractured, and for what? To warehouse people who had no right to step onto British soil in the first place. Every pound spent on temporary accommodation is a pound stolen from British veterans sleeping rough, families waiting years for council housing, and pensioners who can't afford heating. The public is told, "We have no money for you." But there's always money for another migrant hotel. This is not compassion. This is corruption of priorities. The paperwork scam, here's where it gets worse. Most illegal arrivals don't show up politely at Dover with a passport in hand. No, they destroy their documents mid-channel, rip them up, toss them overboard, vanish the evidence. Then, when they arrive, they play the game. You can't prove where I'm from, so you can't send me back. And Britain, instead of saying try again, folds like a paper cup. Lawyers jump in, drag cases through court, rack up legal aid bills, and the migrants sit comfortable, all funded by taxpayers. It's a scam, and it's worked for years because politicians let it. The DNA solution? But here's the fix. You shred your passport? Fine. We'll use science, mandatory DNA testing. DNA testing can map ancestry and origin with staggering accuracy. You don't want to tell us where you're from? Your DNA will. It doesn't matter if you claim you're from Syria, Eritrea, or Mars. The test will narrow it down. Then Britain puts you on the next flight to the nation with which you share the strongest DNA link. Illegal entry is a crime. Destroying your documents is another. And the punishment isn't a hotel, a B&B, or a barge. The punishment is deportation. Simple, swift, scientific. This is how you stop the games. This is how you close the loophole. Reform UK's half measures. Now let's be honest about Reform UK. They say, no roaming, detain them. Sure. It sounds tougher than Labour's endless hotels, but detention is still accommodation. A military base isn't free. Modular housing still costs money. And guess whose money that is? Yours. Reform's solution is half a loaf. It says, we'll lock them up until we can deport them. But Britain doesn't have the staff, the resources, or the political backbone to scale that up. Detention without deportation just builds bigger camps and bigger resentment. We don't need holding pens. We need deterrence. The whole point is to stop people making the journey in the first place. The deterrence doctrine. Here's the truth the establishment won't admit. Every act of comfort is a magnet. Hotels, barges, detention centres, all of them say, you'll still be fed, you'll still be housed, you'll still be kept here on Britain's dime. That is not deterrence, that is advertising. Smugglers sell Britain as the land of opportunity because they know, even if you arrive illegally, you won't be thrown out immediately. You'll get years of free housing while the government dithers. If Britain wants to end the crisis, the doctrine must be clear. No benefits, no hotels, no barges, no military bases. DNA tests for the undocumented. Deportation, fast, firm, final. That's deterrence. That's policy. That's survival. Compassion begins at home, and for those still clutching their pearls, let's remember Britain is not heartless for saying no. Compassion begins at home. It begins with housing British families, feeding British children, protecting British pensioners. The current asylum circus isn't compassion. It's cruelty disguised as kindness, cruelty to the taxpayer, cruelty to the local community, cruelty even to the migrants themselves, who are lured across dangerous seas with promises Britain cannot and should not keep. Real compassion is deterrence. stopping the boats before more people die in the Channel, stopping the smugglers from selling false dreams, stopping Britain from collapsing under the weight of its own generosity. So let's be absolutely clear. Illegal entry must never equal accommodation. Not in hotels, not in barges, not in military bases. Nowhere. If you shred your documents, you face DNA testing. If you arrive illegally, you face immediate deportation. The message must be unmistakable. Britain is closed to illegal entry. That is deterrence. That is survival. That is how you end the crisis. This is Nubian Narrator News, signing off, reminding Britain, you cannot house your way out of collapse. You deter it, or you drown in it.